Hey, what's up? Michael here. So Honor is a company that has floated around for years now. I've reviewed a lot of Honor products, and without doubt, the Honor Magic 5 Pro is easily the best one. It's got great camera performance, stellar battery, immense power, great build quality, and possibly the best display I've ever used. It's not perfect, however, and for some, there might be one or two deal breakers. But overall, I think if you watch this review to the end, you might be surprised with what this thing can do. So let's start with price. In Europe, it starts at around €950 and you get a whopping 512 gigabytes plus 12 gigs of RAM. And for that price, I think it's really compelling. You get an entire list of flagship specs that look excellent on paper, but let's get into the details. And I want to start with one of the best things about this phone, which is the battery life. So inside we have a massive 5100 mAh battery, which is insane because this phone is not a thick boy. It's actually pretty sleek, and yet we have all that battery goodness crammed inside. That, alongside the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, means this phone just refused to die any day, every day, no matter what. I went on a trip to Hong Kong a few weeks ago and I did not hold back on my usage. I left in the morning and was on 5G all day using GPS, streaming music, taking photos and shooting 4K video. Oh, and I was personal hotspotting someone throughout the day and I had the screen brightness at 100%. I got home in the evening with around 35% left, which for the day I had was amazing. Then we get to the screen, and this is where I was kind of sold on this phone. As I said before, I use an iPhone 13 Pro Max as my daily phone, and that has an almost uncomfortably wide 6.7-inch screen, whereas the Magic 5 Pro with its rounded sides, lighter, more sleek design, and slightly curved screen at an even bigger 6.81 inches somehow felt nicer to hold. Honestly, it was a nice break from my iPhone and I didn't really want to go back. And then there's the screen quality itself, which we have a ridiculously bright 1800 nit Quad HD OLED panel that looks sublime. So that's 800 nits more than last year's Honor Magic 4 Pro. And the way content is presented on this display is dangerously appealing, to the point where I didn't want to stop scrolling on social media timelines. Even basic text on the screen looks fantastic. And then there's the rest of it: HDR10+, 120Hz LTPO2, 460 ppi. So watching movies, TV and social media videos is such a nice experience. There are also a few little hidden settings for the display which some might enjoy, such as the frame rate booster to give videos that ultra motion effect, which I personally don't like, but for sports like football, I think it works quite nicely. I did notice one annoying thing though, which is the auto brightness is pretty aggressive, and I'm convinced no matter how many times I turned it off in the settings, within 24 hours it had turned itself back on, which is properly sneaky. Now at this point I should quickly point out that the 5 Pro actually comes in two colors, and I really like the one that Honor didn't send me. They sent me the standard piano black, which is fine. It's very safe and professional, although it gets smudge marks easily. The one I wanted was the meadow green colorway, which I think really accentuates this phone's design way better. It's got that beautiful green tone and really stands out amongst the other flagships. Now, a few things I want to point out. One, this phone is extremely well built. The finishes are fantastic, it feels premium, it's solid but not heavy, it's slim but still has a good presence in your hand. It still hasn't let go of that Huawei camera design that it was born from, which is okay, but it's not really the classiest design I've ever seen. Now, one odd thing I did notice is that there's a slight rattle if you really give the phone a jolt. Now, Honor assure me that this is normal and is just the optical image stabilization moving, which does actually make sense, but it's also something I've never seen before and is slightly odd. Talking of the camera system, Honor has gone for 50 megapixel shooters all round, and when you open up the camera app, you're presented with 4 options: the ultra wide, the wide, the 3.5 optical, and the 10 times, although the 10 times is just digital processing. Now, for me personally, Honor's processing on the Magic 5 Pro is just a little too artificial. It's just not for my liking, with scenes and faces looking very airbrushed, like they've come out of an Instagram factory. Now, is that a bad thing? For me personally, I don't like it, but a lot of my friends played with this phone and said they actually preferred these photos more than the photos they were getting out of their own iPhones, which I thought was interesting. The fact that you can just snap a few pictures and have them come out ready to upload to social media is probably quite appealing for a lot of people. The actual quality of the images are fantastic, with a lot of detail from the main sensor, and I also really like how things are done at night. I think shots have quite a cinematic look to them, with plenty of clarity, which I really appreciate. The ultra-wide has a gigantic 122-degree field of view, so proper wide, and it takes some nice detailed images that I have absolutely zero complaints about. Although there is a little drop off in lower light, and at night I didn't really think much of it. The 3.5 times zoom is also solid, and on a clear day you can really get into the 10 times without much of a quality drop, although once you get into early evening there was a slight blur that crept in. There is also 4K video recording capped at 60 FPS. Video seemed relatively smooth and of good quality, perhaps a little too saturated for my liking, and I do always find there are minor flickers of exposure on Honor phones in general when it comes to video capture, and here it was no different. Now, powering everything is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, which, as well as being extremely power efficient, is also the most powerful chip you can get on an Android phone, and that means top performance in basically anything you throw at it. If you're a gamer, you can rest assured that all the top quality settings can be ticked without performance dropping during gameplay, with it easily being able to hit those high frame rates without overheating or lagging. Call of Duty ran perfectly on the Ultra settings, as did Real Racing 3, and of course I had to try out Genshin Impact, which also ran nicely on maxed out settings. That 6.8-inch OLED display looked amazing during gameplay, and at full brightness it's quite the treat. I did feel quite spoiled though. The only thing I would complain about is the positioning of the camera bump just being a little too prominent, so much so that it's not really that comfortable to rest your fingers on thanks to its massive size. Apart from that though, gaming was a breeze, and using the phone in general, everything felt very snappy with apps loading quickly. There were however a few glitches in the YouTube app, with animations and scrolling lagging somewhat. I was also not over impressed by the RAM's performance on this phone. The Magic 5 Pro, even though it's 12GB, I did expect more apps to stay loaded a little more than they did. I had a few occasions where I was surprised that an app that I'd opened 30 minutes earlier actually had to reload. So hopefully RAM management will get an update in the future through software updates. Moving on to other hardware features, I've seen a few people criticize the size of the front-facing camera cutout. I personally don't see it as a problem, as it houses not only a super ultra-wide selfie camera, but also a 3D biometric face unlock, which is so much better and more secure than the normal 2D face unlock by just using the selfie camera. And the selfie camera itself, as I said, has an excellent field of view, so you can fit as many of your friends in there as you like. And that also carries over into selfie video, which shoots in full 4K resolution. This is what the front-facing camera looks like. It's 4K 60 FPS, looks pretty smooth. Nice stabilization, and nice and wide as well. This is the wide angle 0.7, then we have 0.8, and then full in. Pretty good. Of course, we also have IP68 dust and water resistance, as well as a pretty fast, but not the fastest, 66 watt wired charging, although it does have an impressive 50 watt wireless charging speed using Honor's own proprietary wireless charger. We also have reverse wireless charging, a USB-C port at the bottom, and stereo speakers that sound okay. They lack a bit of punch, but should do the job for most people. I think Honor has done a really good job over the years of perfecting their hardware to a really good standard across their flagship devices without cutting corners on the little things. That, however, has come at a cost perhaps to its software, which doesn't really seem to have evolved that much over the past few years. The Magic OS skin looks old and uninspired. Widgets, although they look good, are fairly limited, and the amount of customization options hasn't changed that much either. There are some really smart functions that people might be unaware of, like the AI privacy call feature, which prevents the sound of your call from being leaked out and heard by anybody sitting closely when you've got it up to your ear. But in general, there's just not that much to report on. Overall though, the Honor Magic 5 Pro is an excellent phone at a fantastic price. A flagship at this level coming with 512 gigs of storage as standard is rather compelling. And with a whole list of high-end hardware being crammed into a well-built and comfortable body, it's hard to ignore. But if you're looking to save a little bit more money, click here for my review of the OnePlus 11 that starts at an even lower price and is rather awesome. And of course, help me out by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel and turning on all those notifications. And if you have an opinion or a question about the Honor Magic 5 Pro, drop a comment down below and I will do my best to get back to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.